I encourage everyone to take a moment and breathe and take a tea cheers with a Ajiri tea. A Ajiri tea recognizes the beauty in shared stories and shared opportunities. Ajiri sources award-winning tea from Kenya, employs women in the region to handcraft the labels, and sends 100% of the profits back to the region to support orphan education. Save 10% on your order of Kenyan teas and coffee with the code BeautifullyHuman at ajiritea.com. AJIRIT.com. Tea mugs up. Hello and welcome to the Beautifully Human podcast. I'm Nick Sheesby. In this podcast, I speak with beautiful humans from all around the world, sharing with you their incredible stories, revealing the power in every human story, to spread love and humanity to a world that is in desperate need of it, to show that we can all connect in beautiful ways, no matter where we come from or what we look like. What you will find out is that we are all beautifully human. Let's all be beautifully human. Welcome into another episode of the Beautifully Human podcast. Today, joining me from Austin, Texas, is a very wonderful woman, Mary Schneider, and she is just so kind, has such an infectious laugh. I truly hope you enjoy this conversation that we had. If you like the podcast, follow on Spotify and on Instagram at The Beautifully Human Podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. And again, just enjoy this beautiful conversation. I will just say welcome, and I'm very glad to meet you.
Thank you.
I'm excited
Nice
to have this
meet you.
chat. Excited to have this chat with you and get to know you and hear about your life. So I love to start these off with a big, broad question for you so we can start to navigate into this beautiful chat that we're about to have, and just say, tell me a story about your life.
Story about my life. Well, there's a lot of stories.
Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting stories that has to do with my my current my current position in the world and how I make money and what I do and all those things. I back in, I don't know, it must have been 25 years ago, maybe 30. I had three friends who were all healers. One was a homeopath, one was a psychotherapist, and one was a nurse midwife who worked on the Cambodian border during the Vietnam War.
Wow.
She could actually heal bullet wounds.
Whoa.
And yeah, and they asked me one day, they were going to take this thing called resonance repatterning, and did I want to take it with them? And I said, no, not only no, but hell no.
Yeah.
No. And I don't know what they were doing, but they bought it for me. And so I went up to New York and I took this training, and I came back and I said, well, that was nice. It's absolutely fascinating, but I was in marketing and PR. I had no desire to do anything with it. And it ended up that I've been doing that. I've been in private practice for 20 years doing that. And and 25 years I've been doing that for a living.
That's amazing.
I know.
And so what was the teaching? Explain to me what you learned in those sessions, and then now what you do with your practice.
Well, it's resonance repatterning is a process for positive change, and it's based on quantum mechanics. And it says that all matter is energy. So if all matter is energy, everything has a frequency. So low back pain has a frequency, diseased organs have a frequency, and since thought is also matter, limiting belief systems, negative thought patterns, they all have frequencies too. If you can optimize those frequencies, people experience profound dramatic change in their lives. And resonance repatterning is the process that optimizes frequencies. And I went up there, and this was in, I think it was 95, to New York to learn about it, and started my first practice maybe 97 or something like that. And when I talked to people about it, they were just like, what are you
Sure.
done? You know, now it's just everybody goes, oh yeah, that's cool. You know,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the mindset has definitely changed on that realm, I'm sure.
yeah, I got on a radio show back then that in a network that a friend of mine ran. She was a program director, so she got a health reporter to come over and repattern this woman for sugar addiction, and they put it on the 10 o'clock news, and they did it with this like E equals MC squared montage floating around in it, you know. And the next day, all the physicists from UT here in Austin called the radio station and said, that doesn't have anything to do with physics.
It
It
shook
was
them up a
great.
little.
Yeah, totally. Which was fine with me because I'm always, you know, good press, bad press, who cares? It's press, right?
Right. It gets your name out there, gets
Yes.
people thinking differently. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Nobody knows that better than Donald Trump. You know,
Oof.
he
Yeah.
has that down. He
That's true.
he has that mastered.
Yeah. If anything, he has.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I was thinking when you were talking about that, I you said two things that really stuck out. The one about sugar addiction, and also about it healing, um, like liver and stuff. Because I just a brief part about my story is I 2.5 years ago now was at the beginning stages of liver failure, and I have worked myself to 2.5 years sobriety and gotten it healthy. But I'm fascinated how it works along those lines, because also the sugar addiction one hit me because my drinks were rum and very sugary shots, and I was drinking a shit ton of them a lot all the time. And so after getting sober, that wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was when I started eating sugar and snacks and candies and all that. That was so much harder for me to kick than the alcohol, the sugar addiction.
Well, alcohol has a lot of sugar in it, right? And
Yeah.
I think that when you're not getting the sugar into your body through the alcohol, you've got to get it some other way,
Yeah.
right? And when that's going on, that's just basically you still have the sugar addiction working.
Right.
And I repattern people for sugar addiction all the time. It's a big problem.
It is. And I don't
Yeah.
think people fully realize that it is an addiction, or it even can be. But that one, I was probably more on that of maybe it is, maybe it's not. But then the second it kicked in, I was like, oh my God, this is rough. It was brutal. I was going out to dinner a lot with my partner on a tour we were on, and she was like, well, I just noticed myself, I don't eat dessert very often, and we're getting it every night, and I'm feeling it. I can feel it in my body, and I'm gaining some pounds. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. And I just had to cut it. And it was really tough.
Did you do that? Because cold turkey sugar is like cold turkey heroin.
Yeah, I did for a few months, and then I tried I forget what it was that I tried, but I went back and it didn't have the same effect. So I was like, okay, I made my mindset better on it, and so now it's more controlled. I still allow myself a little bit because I'm just like, I can't take every part of fun out of life with
Well, yeah, that's deprivation. You know, you don't want to do that to yourself. But I would be happy to repattern you for sugar addiction.
Yeah,
I mean, it's if you're addicted to alcohol, you just have an addictive personality. You're just going to pull in different, you know, you can kind of, I don't know, replace one and then replace it with
Oh,
something
totally.
else and replace it with, you know, flip through them all. One of them is
Right.
people move to a lot is food,
Sure.
right? So then they start gaining a lot of weight,
Yep.
and then if they don't want to gain weight, they go back to what they did before.
Yeah. It's a vicious cycle.
It can be really hard. But
Yeah.
I think once you're aware of what it is and all that it entails and how much of a hold it had on you, there's so much stuff out here that you can do. I mean, I would be happy to repattern you for sugar addiction.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
You've got a piece of it done, and you've got, I mean, it's a process, right?
Totally. Always. It's always, you can always do better at it.
Mhm.
There's always steps to take to add on top of what you've got. I believe that. So how did you end up down in Austin? Did you grow up in Austin?
No, I didn't. When I was 28, I got transferred down here.
Okay.
And that was a long time ago. And this town, I don't know if you've ever been here.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's pretty intense now, but back then it was just this sleepy little burg, where you could go downtown and hear Willie Nelson.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, or um, what's his face? Oh, I can't think of him. I can't believe I forgot who it is. The Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh man.
You go downtown and listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan on the park for free.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
didn't even
just
think about that.
yeah, just incredible.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so cool. So you got to see Stevie Ray Vaughan?
yeah. I met him a number of times.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, that's incredible.
yeah. This is my little name dropper. Yeah, this
Yeah.
friend of mine owned a restaurant here in town, and we went there after we'd been to a party or something, and the guy that owned the restaurant let us stay, and he shut everybody else out, and Stevie Ray came out and played for us for 3 hours in the
Whoa.
night alone. There were 6 of us in there.
Damn, that's incredible.
It was.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I grew up on Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I
That's
bet.
amazing. I've seen the statue and everything in Austin, and it's fun to me to think of a sleepy little Austin because every time I've been there, I've been through there a ton of times. I have a lot of good friends that live down there. I do actually love Austin quite a bit. But
Wonderful.
especially like I was working with a band and they were doing Austin City Limits. No, South by Southwest.
South
I've
by.
done both. I've worked both, but man, South by was mania to put it lightly. That was wild down there. So I can't even every time I've been there, it's just been such a fun time, such a party. I can't even imagine it as a sleepy little place.
Yeah, it's just, well, you could party a lot, when it was a sleepy little place, but
True.
yeah, it's just nice to see over the decades where it's gotten.
Yeah.
Like I had a PR business back when South by started, and my partner and we did the PR for the first one.
Wow.
We had a little teeny tiny office at the Chronicle, like a closet,
Yeah.
Now they have their own building.
Right. That's so cool. And I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just imagining it. In the 12 years I've been going to Austin, I've seen so much change. I can't even imagine living there and then being in that city and just being a part of all this happening going
Yeah,
on.
it's been really fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's been really good for business and
Yeah,
really
I'm sure.
for it brings in a lot of cash into our economy. And we haven't had it for the last 2 years because of COVID, so
Right.
it's kind of a bummer, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It'll come back.
It'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Detroit.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then my family moved to Lansing, Michigan, which is the capital where Michigan State is.
Yeah.
And I went to high school there. And I went to college there. I went to Michigan State University. And then well, I guess it must have been maybe 8 or 9 years. Well, no, not that many. Maybe 5 or 6 years that I came down to Austin.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that you say Detroit too, because that's another city that has evolved so much.
Oh, I love Detroit.
Yeah,
It is so cool,
it is.
It's just I know.
Yeah, I grew
Yeah.
up I grew up in Ohio, and I grew up a Red Wings fan because we didn't have a hockey team in Ohio. So I remember the first time I was able to drive up there to go to a game at Joe Louis Arena. And that was the first time I'd ever been to Detroit. And then now when I go back through, I'm just like, this is a whole new world up here
Yeah.
now.
Well, George Soros put a lot of money into it, and the thing about Detroit is the architecture.
Yes.
It's just kind of that industrial 30s sort of like Fountainhead, kind
Yeah.
of just yeah,
Yeah, it's really
Art
cool. And
Deco and
yeah, and I like that they are paying attention to that and using the structures that they have to make it cool.
yeah,
You don't need to put anything new in. Just build what you got up. Make it rad.
even the factories,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
They're cool,
Yep.
You just can't. I don't know. I was raised on Motown.
Oh, man. Yeah, I love some Motown too. And I just, yeah, all these cities that have such history. It's cool that you've been in so many, or a couple different ones that have had such big ebb and flow to them.
Well, and I've gotten to know them well. I didn't just pass through,
Right.
That's the nice thing about it.
Yeah, because that's one thing with my travel. I work most of the time, not this past year, obviously, but traveling with bands. So I have made it through these cities a ton of times, but that's one part of them that I don't necessarily get is fully getting to know them. I'm there for a very short period of time.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you've dug in and you get to see that massive change come through.
Yeah, and be a part of it in different little ways. And yeah, it's really cool. I'm very blessed. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I'd like to talk about on this, it's one thing I miss the most during COVID times, and it's traveling. Have you done a lot of traveling in your time then as well?
Actually, no. I really never I've done very little traveling. I've done a lot of traveling. I used to travel in my work all the time.
Yeah.
That would be, just nationally, but I've spent a lot of time in Mexico.
Oh, cool.
And I love Mexico. You get off the plane, and I get off the plane in Mexico and my shoulders drop 6 inches.
Yeah.
The energy is just very different there.
Definitely.
Very different than the
Yeah.
United States.
Yeah.
And of course, I've been all over the U.S. My family is pretty spread around, and that I have a sister who lives in Montana, and I love going
beautiful.
up there. It's
Yeah.
beautiful, right?
Love Montana.
Yeah, it's just that whole cowboy, inflection. I just love that. I love it here too.
Yeah. Yeah, I went up to Glacier last summer for the first time, and I was just floored. I couldn't believe how gorgeous it was up there.
Yeah, my sister lives 30 miles from there.
Oh man,
amazing. In Kalispell, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was in Glacier last year. Yeah.
It's
beautiful.
Our VW, we bought a VW van over quarantine to go drive around the country, and it broke down in Kalispell. So we spent 2 days in Kalispell waiting for our van to get fixed. So we know it. We do it. We got to know it pretty well.
That was really wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great place to break down.
there's far worse places to break down.
I know. I have another friend that's so funny. They broke down in Kalispell.
Man, it might just be the spot to break down.
Yes. Yeah, and there's this like beautiful place by there's in Glacier. There's this beautiful little tchotchke shop, where you can stop and get pictures and all that kind of stuff. And right next to it is a piece of it's a big driveway. Probably they put boats in the water there, and we were hanging out there, and a month later, that exact spot was on the cover of the Sundance catalog.
I can't be surprised.
I know.
It's so beautiful up there, and we were there during the summer, and I mean it was a mob scene. It was mobbed up there.
Was it?
Yeah, I mean a lot. The place we went to. It was off of a bridge where you could park your camper vans, and it was probably 70 of them down there.
Oh my goodness.
I think a lot of people this summer when COVID went down a little bit, I think a lot of people from what we saw went to state parks and national parks and stuff like that. So yeah, there were quite a few people out and about on when we were up there. So on that note, then if COVID restrictions weren't in place and you could travel wherever, and I came to you and I said, Mary, I have a plane ticket to anywhere in the world, where would you go to?
That's a very difficult question. The first thing that pops in my head is Paris. The second thing that pops in my head is Spain. And I have been to Paris before, and I just really adored it, But yeah, I think that would be it. I wouldn't go to Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, in my scenario that I'm playing out, it's more like the Oprah model where I just get to go, well, okay, you want to go to Spain and Paris? You get to go to both. So I would say you get to go to both. I've been to both, and I absolutely love Paris and I love Spain. I was in Madrid.
Yeah, I've never been to Spain, but it's really rich.
Yes.
Really rich.
Yeah.
It's got a lot. I have this thing on my computer, which is people, I don't know how they do it, but they pop up different pictures from all over the world all the time. And they pop up a lot of pictures from Spain. And it's just incredible. And they pop up a lot of pictures from South Africa.
Ooh,
Gee, Louise, what a beautiful place. Holy mackerel.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who is living in Cape Town right now. He's actually from Zimbabwe, but he's down in Cape Town. And
what a beautiful city.
Oh my God, I know. Every time I see photos from down there, I just want to go. Actually, I saw this a week or so ago. A friend of mine sent it to me, and there's actually a road that you can walk from South Africa all the way to I think all the way across Russia. You can walk it. It would take 2.5 years to walk it.
Wow.
But it's got bridges over all the water. It's a fully walkable path. But yeah, you would change like 6 time zones, and you would see like 2 years worth of life walking this road. And you'd walk all the way across Africa, all the way up through to Russia. I mean, could you imagine?
Does it go up through Europe, Russia, or huh?
Yeah, so it goes up. From what I saw, it looked like it went through Egypt and then kind of went across that way. So I think you'd probably hit. I don't know. I'd have to look at it more, but you go through, I think, like parts of Eastern Europe through like maybe Croatia that way and then in. But I was like, man, if the world keeps shut down, that wouldn't be a bad way to spend 2 years. If I knew ahead of time we were going to shut down again for 2 years, just fly to South Africa and start walking.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, there's that one, I can't remember the name of it, that the one in Spain that Martin Sheen walked across with his son, and they made a movie out of it. It's the it's a pilgrimage walk, goes across Spain into the Basque country. I can't remember. Yeah,
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I don't know if I'd like to. I don't really want to go to Russia.
I think I would go just to see it. I read a book about Siberia this summer where these people biked across Siberia, and it was just wild. They would get to these small villages, and these people had never really even seen the outside world, and they said they were the kindest, most sweetest people, and they were just like, talk to us, we want to know about life. And I was thinking that would be pretty amazing to see, of just such an untouched world,
right,
so far away from everything.
To have a whole bunch of people come out and holler and celebrate because you're there,
just looking at you like,
every time you hit a city. That's got to be great for your self-esteem.
Right. Yeah, you're not the 50 people that live here, so you're very exciting.
Yeah.
Every new place, every 100 miles or so, you're
right.
a celebrity. Oh, that's amazing. So one other thing, this kind of goes back to where we started with your practice, and I really loved the quote you have on your website where light travels at 186,000 miles per second, and that's how fast we can heal.
Theoretically, yes. We're energy. Energy is light. Light travels at 186 miles per second. That's how fast we can theoretically heal. Yes, absolutely. Just change the frequency and you're healed. And I have had that happen with people for sure. Yeah.
And that has to be so rewarding to be able to get that knowledge, especially the way you got it, where you were kind of like, yeah, okay, we'll see about this.
Screaming the whole way.
Yeah. And then you get to make this beautiful life and get to see. I think it's so neat, like just such a different way of approaching medicine and healing people, that I think so many people, and I this is just me outside looking in because I haven't thought about it a ton, but I feel like you said, people were resistant to it, but once they see it and can feel that change, I feel like it's got to be cool to see the change, but also the change in mindset to get them to be like, oh, this is actually something that works.
Yeah, that was just this sort of a sociological progression. Really, it was that quantum mechanic conversation was around, but it was in a small group of people. And then now it's with the advent of all of the technology that we have. Now it's a very common conversation. Very young people are like, oh yeah, I know that. I didn't,
Yeah.
And,
so how has it changed during the pandemic for you?
My business has stayed the same. It's a little slower.
Yeah.
But I've been working a lot with people on, depression and fear and a lot of those really deep, unresolved issues people have that get triggered in a situation like the pandemic. So there's been a lot of people who've been triggered a lot.
Yeah.
And so, we've been working with them and it's really been helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I know I've talked to a lot of people in my industry, in the music industry, that, I mean, everybody around the world has been in this that has not looked like anything that anybody's ever seen before. So I know there's a lot of mental health struggles in every walk of life. But yeah, it's I know as I talk to those people and all the ideas that they've brought up of their mental health. I was like, when I was drinking, I know I wouldn't have made it through this pandemic.
Oh,
You
really?
know, like I know my mindset, I wouldn't have been strong enough to make it. I probably would have just drank myself away.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you got help before this thing.
Yeah. So I've, all that to say, like, I think it's really beautiful work that you do to be there for
Thank you.
people
I
in this
love it.
time.
I love it. I've seen so much transformation. It's just wonderful, and because of that statement, that light travels at 186,000 miles per second, people can heal really fast in this particular modality. It's I mean, I had somebody in my office the other day. Well, I don't have anybody in my office right now. I just
Right.
have one. But I had somebody tell me the other day, they went, wow, that was just like five therapy sessions.
Yeah, I bet.
People say that a lot, And back to your liver, the livid, resentment and those kinds of things, and I don't know I know we all have that, and I don't have any judgment about it, but that's stuff you can look at too
Yeah.
to help you totally heal.
Yeah, and I was very ignorant to what the liver was capable of and how much you can beat it up before it just finally gives up. But I've been amazed to see in myself, in my own liver, of how much it can rejuvenate,
Yeah,
how
it
it can go
does.
from something so terrible to still beat up a little bit. It's been through a good street fight or two or three, but it's still there. It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes, I'm so glad.
Um,
You need it,
yes. Oh,
You
well,
do
and that,
need it. It's the lab. It's your
yeah,
body's lab.
yeah. I just truly I didn't realize, or I didn't think about it, but I remember I used to play basketball a long time ago, but I remember pretty soon after I got out of the hospital, I was hanging out with some people and I was trying to shoot baskets with them, and I couldn't. I was missing so badly. I couldn't even get the ball to the rim because I didn't have any strength in my legs, and it was because my liver was the activity was so poor that I didn't realize that all the blood flowed up and then went back down, and they're all so connected through the liver, and because mine was not working that well, I was struggling even with something that I had done forever. I couldn't even do it correctly. So I was like,
Oh,
man, it's unbelievable.
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I saw on your sheet that you also sent over, it, you had like little bullet points of like frustration with your jobs and unfulfilling relationships. So is that's something you help with as well
Oh yeah.
in your practice?
Yeah. I do a lot of work with couples. Um, we we it's an interesting thing. I didn't really think you could do that on the phone, but we do couple sessions on the phone and have been through the whole pandemic. And yeah, all kinds of relationship issues, just from having people come into my office about ready to kill each other,
Yeah.
and walking out and there's birds tweeting and hearts everywhere, that's the greatest.
Yeah. That
Yeah. Um, and relationships with their kids too, I work with a lot of kids. I've had kids on the spectrum, and we've gotten them off the spectrum, and just a lot of. People say, well, what can you repattern? I tell them anything.
yeah.
If you've got a class tomorrow and it's got a big test in it, you come in and get repatterned, you probably ace the test.
That's so cool.
It is cool.
I think it's so neat because I hear so many different avenues. And I love, that's why I was so interested to talk to you and hear about this more, because you hear about the therapy and the standard way of doing things, but I love that there are so many different options out there and every part works for people. But
Absolutely.
and I never discourage anyone, with my sobriety journey.
Yeah.
I did it far different than most people would, and that's fine. And other people do it this way and that way. Same with therapy. And it's like, take the help where you can get it. But I love that you have this whole different way. And somebody said that was like 5 therapy sessions. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have on my website, I have a documentary. I had a documentary filmmaker come in for a session, and she was so blown away by the work that she made a movie out of my practice.
Wow.
And yes, they gave it to me as a gift, and it's very beautiful. I mean,
Oh, that's so cool.
yes, it has Chloe Wordsworth, the woman who developed resonance repatterning. She's on it, and I'm on it, and 12 of my clients are on it. And we've got 4-year-olds and, just the whole 9 yards, people talking about what it does. And the documentary filmmaker, she follows up at the end, and she said, I don't think I could have gotten to this issue that came up. I've never gotten into it in therapy, and I don't think I could have gotten to it in 5 years of therapy.
Wow.
And Chloe, the woman who developed this, says she's talked to psychiatrists who have said that we've gotten to issues that people have in one session that he didn't get to in 5 years of therapy.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so it's pretty lasered,
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that what you would, is it because it's so hyper focused on what they come in with? Say I came in and said sugar addiction. Is it because they come in and you go straight to that? Or is it like, do you broaden it if I say I wanted something like repatterned with sugar addiction, and then would you broaden it, or do you just go straight for that and then see where it goes?
Both.
Okay.
It just depends on the person. But for sugar addiction, you could find out, Nick, that there's something that happened in your childhood that has to do with that. Like, I don't know, I've had sugar addiction where people had a nanny that fed them sugar all the time. And that nanny was just disappeared. And, that sugar brought them to the nanny. And they did not know that, right? That was in their subconscious. And once we got to that, they got beyond it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So.
That's so cool.
Yes.
I just love so much that it is just for such a beautiful part of helping humans through all this stuff that is out there, because there's so much that people bring in, especially in these times, like you said. I think it's I don't know, I love what you're doing. I think it's so beautiful.
Thank you. I feel very blessed to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I got over my not only no but hell no.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So your friends that took you to it, are they still practicing?
No.
That's amazing.
No, but they're still in some kind of healing modality.
Okay.
They still are in the healing world in some capacity. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so fun that they took you and you said hell no, and now it's become a life's work.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to a lot of that could speak to a lot of people of when you're seeing that opportunity and if you're sitting there going hell no, maybe take that step and go for it and see, because who knows what's coming or what you find purpose in.
Yeah. And why is it in your face?
Right.
Right. I mean, you have to look, you don't have to, I don't espouse that you ever have to do anything I say,
Right.
but it's, it's really good, you know,
Right.
it's really good if you take a look at it, just make sure, you know, take some time to really check it out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if something keeps popping up in your life, at least give it a look. If it just keeps
Yeah,
popping up, it's like, okay, why?
right.
See what's happening with it. Even if it's something that you have no idea what it was or why it would interest you, might as
Or no
well.
idea, or no way in hell do you want to do anything with it.
Right.
That's how I was.
Yeah. I love that so much. All right. Well, I have a couple more questions for you that I like to ask everybody on this podcast. And first one is, what would you want the world to know about you?
What would I want the world to know about me? Ah, that I have a big heart.
Yeah. I mean, I to jump on that with you. I can't imagine someone doing the work that you're doing and helping with what you're helping with without having a big heart.
Well, maybe, you know, you're right. But I do uh, aspire to have that as a quality that I have in life.
Yeah. And do you feel I forget I was speaking with another woman that she lives in Australia and she's a counselor, and she said she felt it when she was very young, at like pre 10 years old, that she just like was talking to her friends and being there for them, and that's kind of how she kind of found her path into what she's doing. Do you feel that you felt it before your hell no moment, or was it something that came about with that?
Really, I wanted to make a difference in the
Hmm.
world, right?
Yeah.
Somehow, but I had no idea how. And it, you know, while I was in the midst of, you know, getting trying to figure this whole thing out, I really you know, I really missed that it would be a way to make a difference in the world. And then finally it hit me. I was like, oh my God, I know how to do this beautiful thing, you know? And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a really important thought, is how do I make a difference in the world? And I think a ton of people get caught up in the broad, how do I change the world, when you can really sit there and change one person, and then they feel better, and then they go talk to somebody else, and you spread that ripple out, and then that inspires change around.
I
And
also creates a change in the energetic structure of what's going on, you know, and it makes it easier for other people to change.
yeah.
And yeah, it's
Yeah. So I think that's cool. I mean, kind of why I wanted to start doing this podcast. I started it as a blog where I would send 20 some questions, and I would just ask people to tell me basically about their life and answer these questions. And the most common question I got was, why me? Why I'm not interesting. Why would you want to hear about my story? And I just said, because of your story. And I think that empowerment was something I felt when I was starting to tell my story of my sobriety and just life in general. And so that's why I love doing this podcast, is for people to hear different stories, different mindsets on life and different avenues of life where you can make a difference, even if it's in a small way. Every bit of difference is a big difference in the world.
yeah. And when you talk about your story, you talk about all of those things, like you talking about your sobriety, it anchors it in a way, you know?
Yeah. And it makes it commonplace. It isn't something that's so, "Ugh, I don't want to talk about this healing or this energy or sobriety," where some people can get to where it seems off topic, but it's life. I mean, we have to talk about these sorts of issues or it doesn't get to be commonplace and then we don't find the power in it.
I think the people, yeah, that's a good point. I think that the people that would find it um, would not really want it to be talked about would be people that drink too much,
For sure.
right? I
Oh,
mean,
100%.
yeah,
I was that person. So that's why I know why my power will have or my story will have power to that person. That's when I tell my story, I don't tell it for the golf claps and the congratulations, which you should give someone congratulations and golf claps when they're getting sober because it's a massive thing. But I always tell it for the person that was me in the back of a tour bus or hiding my bottles, and that's why I want to share it. And I know there's power in that. So I love sharing these types of stories and these kind of conversations to spread around the beauty of what you're doing and the power that you're bringing to the world, and let people know that if they're feeling these kinds of ways, that there are people like you out there that they can reach out to talk to and find power and find strength in themselves.
yeah. People ask me what does resonance repatterning do, and I tell them it just makes people empowered, makes them empowered, and it teaches them how to love. You
And how, I mean,
know? Excuse
those
me.
are two of the biggest, most important parts of yourself is self-love and self-empowerment.
Right.
I mean, I when you feel that empowerment like I felt, and someone brought this up the other day actually. It was a really beautiful thought. I told him about this moment where this guy on the first tour I went on when I was back out sober, and we were at a bar, first time back in a bar. So that was a big step for me,
Mhm.
just going
Okay.
in without drinking. He asked me what I wanted to drink, and I said, I'll take a soda water. Flash forward, he goes, "Oh, so you don't drink?" And I was like, "No, I massively drink. I just cannot drink anymore ever again." So
Good
there's a
distinction.
difference. There's a big difference. I 100% drink far too much, so I cannot do it anymore. Um, and he, in that moment, said, "Oh, well, that's really cool. Don't worry about it. If you need to go, let's go. Let's get out of here." And he gave me that step of empowerment where he was the first person in a bar setting in my industry that said, "That's cool that you don't." Because I had tied so much of my identity into me as a drinker and me as a
Right.
party person. So when I felt that empowerment, it was incredible, and it put me to a different trajectory in my sobriety of just that self-power where I felt that finally, where I thought, oh well, it is cool to be sober, I got this, now it's in my mind. And that helped so much. So I was telling this story to this dude I was talking to, and he goes, "So what in your day-to-day life now can be that empowerment moment? Where can you find that each day? Where can you find that?
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
an empowerment of that you felt of sobriety. Where can you find those?" And he said, "You don't have to answer it," because when he asked, I was like, "Oh," and I didn't know what to say. And he goes, "No, no, no. That's just a challenge for me, for everyone listening. Challenge yourself to find those massive empowerment moments that you can give yourself because those are so helpful."
Yeah. That just builds.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. I thought that was such a cool point. It really took me back and I went, wow, I like that. So, a challenge to anybody listening.
It really is an empowering moment when you go back into a bar and you know that, I can do this.
Yeah.
I got this,
Yeah. And at that point, I didn't, I didn't have that mindset yet. And then when he told me that, I said, oh, I got this. I'm good. because now I have somebody that has told me it's all good. We can get
Well,
out of here if you need to.
you might not have thought you would get support in the bar either.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's nice.
So yeah, that was a big moment. So it's cool now. I have a mindset once this guy Andrew said find those moments in your day to day. I was like, I'm gonna keep that in my mind and find
Yeah,
those moments to empower myself. And it's nice because I get to have these types of conversations with so many different people that it's been
really
incredible.
get something from everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And I
great.
love it because as of an hour ago, we were perfect strangers, except for a couple emails, and then we get to have this, and I get to walk away with the knowledge you've given me. So I truly appreciate that, and I've
I
truly
know.
enjoyed.
I really enjoy that about my job.
Yeah,
Where I know people on such a deep, intimate level. It's just such an honor.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I know the biggest compliment I can get is at the end of one of these where I'm hanging out with someone, even if I've known them or I don't know them at all, and at the end they just say that was really easy and really nice and a good conversation, even if we had a really hard talk or something they had never spoken about, and they can come to me and say, man, that was really nice, that was really a good conversation, it felt good. That's the biggest compliment I can get,
Oh,
is
that's great.
just
Yeah.
having that space for people like you provide.
Same deal.
Yeah.
The same thing. Yeah. Different clothing maybe, but same
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
All self-empowerment and self-love. That's what
Yeah.
I'm pushing.
Yeah.
Pushing that out.
That's great.
The world needs a lot more of it.
Yeah, we do.
And that's
People enjoy life so much more when they're in that state,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and that's why I called this Beautifully Human, because it's not, oh, we're all so beautiful. It's we're all beautifully human, and that includes the gritty, not beautiful stuff of life. But that's life, and that makes us beautifully human.
Yeah. Well, we all suffer, and suffering can be a beautiful, deep, wrenching thing where you
Yeah.
get a lot of growth from. It's part of the deal here.
Yeah. I wouldn't be here had I not slammed myself through a wall with drinking and gone to the
Oh,
hospital.
no.
You
You
know,
slammed yourself through a wall in a car?
no, literally, just figuratively into through a
Oh,
wall in life. No, just to the darkest part that I could take myself in life.
yeah.
So I would definitely wouldn't be here. But um, all right, last question I have for you, and it is: if you had the ear of everybody in the world, what would you say to them?
I would say learn to love yourself. And I would say um, there's a lot of ways you can learn that. There's a lot of help out there to achieve something like that. But I would say that because I think that's how to live the most fulfilling life you can.
Yeah,
And it's just softer and nice, just more um, more easy on you and more easy on the world. And yeah,
yeah, yeah. It puts out it radiates when you find that self love, and then it's
absolutely.
that ripple again of when people feel safe and comfortable around you, then they start to feel that as well, and they start to push that out, and it's beautiful.
It is. It's a beautiful thing, really.
Yes.
And I
Well,
love Janet Jackson.
oh yeah, I do as well. I do as well.
I used to run to her all the time.
Yeah, she is fantastic.
Yep.
Well, Mary, I thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me. This has been
Well, thank
fantastic.
you. It was just absolutely delightful.
Yeah.
Really. I really enjoyed it. And I hope we can talk again or
Yeah, I would love that.
yeah.
And
Well,
when we get to traveling, I hope I make it down through Austin at some point.
oh, great. Well, if we do, don't forget. I
I would
I
not. I
know
would
the
love.
city really well.
Yeah, exactly.
I know the good places to go.
I always like to have the locals' opinion.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If you're, traveling around, that's where you find out where the great food is, where the great music is. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Well, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day today. And
You too.
again, thank you for your
Thank you.
time and hanging out with me.
This was great. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Beautifully Human podcast. To hear more beautiful stories from beautiful humans, follow us on Spotify and rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at the Beautifully Human Podcast. Peace signs up.